Times when I hear people say I'm going to a better place, I'm always worried what might come next.
I was
Yeah,
thinking that same thing. Yes.
yeah, it was a bad choice of words, but anyway.
No, it's all very good. It it is what it is, and it is 6 o'clock. And so, for those of us who are here, I believe it says I'm streaming on Facebook.
You're
So,
live streaming, yes.
yeah.
But
Well,
it said.
simultaneously, my feed says it's not working, but such is life. Okay. Let's pray. God, there are some chapters in our holy scriptures that are well known, even if they are not at all understood. And as we go and dance with these ancient words and these fascinatingly strange and somewhat terrifying stories, allow us to learn from them and to see in them the truth. We pray this in the strong name of Jesus.
Amen.
Amen.
Right. So, how are y'all all doing?
Okay.
Good.
Good.
Brilliant. Okay, so last week we were, finishing up Genesis 18 with this fascinating moment between Abraham and God, where perhaps God stands before Abraham, and Abraham hears what God is about to do and basically starts demanding that God be as just and righteous as Abraham believes that God must be. And it's such a fascinating story. And now we're going to move from that one that we don't know as well to this one that we all know very well. No one story, like specifically in the whole of the Bible, is oft quoted by the Bible as Sodom and Gomorrah. In terms of like it'll like when Jesus says it'll be as bad for them as it was for Sodom and Gomorrah, and each one of the prophets looks at Sodom and Gomorrah as his way. So we're going to read this narrative, and maybe we'll read it slowly. And you all know the basic premise, right? We're not going to like suddenly be reading this and be like, I've never heard this. This is the first time. Like, really? Okay, well then congratulations. Welcome to church. We talk about something here called the Bible. And but no, I mean, we hear politicians bring this story up. We hear people use it for all which ways of things. We get words from it. So let's play with it slowly, and we're going to kind of see it together. And the reason we're going to try that is we're going to see if we can see in it stuff for the first time. Does that make sense? So we're just going to all try to take it with a somewhat first time as our community looking at it together. So let's just read a verse by verse. Does anyone want to read a verse, and then we'll talk about that one verse and see what's going on? Not long, just to kind of get a sense of things.
I'll read.
All right, Bill.
So you want to start at the beginning?
Yeah, 19, just verse
Okay.
1.
Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground.
Brilliant. Okay, so we are going to do verse by verse, and it's going to be good because these now are two angels. Where is the third one that was with Abraham? Presumably having a conversation with Abraham. Maybe that's what's going on, or maybe on the way. I have no idea. But these are the same. Remember when the three showed up to Abraham? Yeah, and Abraham
Yeah.
was at his tent, and you remember me joking in somewhat tacky jokes that I am all too good at doing. Um, that why was he just sitting there while everybody else was working? People sit at the front of things because they are the ones who are commissioned to protect it. or to see who's coming and to ensure things. So Abraham was sitting in that tent because that was his job, and apparently Lot might be doing the same for Sodom here. What kind of person is trusted enough to be the one who lets people in and out of the city? So we're already figuring something out about Lot. Lot's been a part of this whole story of faith. But remember when Abraham and Lot separated?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they separated, and Abraham let Lot choose which direction to go, right? And then Lot looked down toward Sodom and he looked down toward Gomorrah and in that region. And what did he think he saw when he looked down there? Anyone recall? And we don't have to, I'm not trying to like, hey, do you guys remember everything we talked about in the Bible? Like, no, I don't know why my mind works. Well, I do know. I don't actually have a clue, but it is what it is. And so
I think
instead
he
of
thought
me
it
being,
looked good at some place he wanted to go.
yes, and it is compared to Eden and the valleys of Egypt. Now, what happened in Eden?
We got kicked
We
out.
got kicked out. Yeah, like it didn't work out well for Eden. What's going to happen in the valleys of Egypt?
They're going to get kicked out. They're going to leave.
No,
they're
going to
going to
be
leave.
enslaved and have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
freed. So even as we're thinking of Sodom right now in this region, we already have to be imagining it with the other things that seemed like paradise that didn't work out well, right? And now the guy who thought it looked like paradise is now wherever he is and with whomever he's with, he's obviously trusted enough by this Lot to be the person who protects the city. So he's sitting out there around the time of night to try to figure these things out. And he rises to meet them. What did Abraham do when the angels came? Do you recall?
Rose to meet them.
He rose to meet them. And then it says
Yeah,
here,
When he put his face down.
Yeah.
He ran to them and put his face down. So Abraham's exhibition of hospitality is already surpassing Lot's. Now, we don't have to say that Lot isn't being hospitable. He is. He rises and waits for them to come, and he bows down, and he still calls them, as we'll see here in a second, Lord. He has all those pieces, but he doesn't run to meet them in quite the same way. So it's just a little hint of things that we may not pay attention to that's trying to speak into the story. So let's read the second verse. Anybody who wants to, just go.
My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square.
Oh, okay. So he's welcoming them, and he initially and immediately says, you should come to my house. And they want to stay in the square. Now, this is the ancient world, and if you're a traveler, you should be able to know that you have a safety as a traveler to be in the square of a town with the relative protection of their hospitality, because you're not trying to be incumbent upon any. You have your own kind of stuff and you'll help those kinds of things. So they're not asking for that. They're asking just to be let in the city. Why do you think Lot might be so quick to try to let them into his house?
Wasn't safe outside.
Yeah, he maybe knew it wasn't as safe outside, because as we'll see, it wasn't. And so he lets them. Maybe again, he's showing hospitality. He's got some, but now we're in a region where again someone might have that. But if others are just of a different kind, what happens is we begin to see even how it'll take Lot and change him into something else. And we're going to see in the midst of this kind of terrible stuff how it ends so many things. And we're going to see how it's true. And we're going to also see as we go into it with the word knowledge that I had said last week, that the word used for like sex here had sex. That is in the NIV that you both have read from so far. is the verb now to know, which is the same verb that God uses to describe Abraham as I know him, which, by the way, the first time it is used in the fullness of Scripture is in chapter 2 of Genesis or chapter 3 of Genesis, even I think. I'm not remembering off the top of my head, shame on me. Whereby you are not supposed to eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So it's a play, as all of Genesis is, with knowledge and the lust for knowledge and the ways that we use it poorly as well going on. It's a fascinating piece. We can't let's play with the wholeness of it. We're gonna try. And now I'm talking too much already. I knew this was gonna happen. 2 verses, sweet Jesus in heaven. Anyone want to read verse 3?
I will.
Thank you, Grace.
Okay. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and enter his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate.
Right.
Before
oh no, we're gonna
keep
stop
going?
there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just stop.
Okay.
I can't help myself.
Okay.
So he prepares them a meal. Abraham also prepared them a meal. It says he makes them a meal, and a part of that meal is unleavened bread with no yeast, which is that fancy bread or quick bread? Quick bread. So he gives them a meal, but this is now, what kind of meal did Abraham give them?
Oh, the fatted calf.
All kinds
Killed
of
the
stuff.
fatted calf. He had Sarah in there making things. He brought them stuff. He washed their feet. Lot is already not exhibiting that kind of hospitality, but seems to be exhibiting a desire to protect them from a place where they're not going to get any better hospitality, perhaps. We're not quite sure. And verse 4. Maybe I should just read them. I'm sorry. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man surrounded the house. Who?
all the men.
All of them. Does it leave any doubt how many stayed back?
Looks like
No.
0.
How many people did Abraham ask to go down to save the whole city?
10.
10. How many people are there?
More than 10.
What's that?
More than 10.
In the city, there would be 0.
Yeah, that's the problem. Every last one of them came out.
Oh, okay, got it.
Young and old.
Mm.
Whatever's going on in this city, it's dangerous to be an outsider. And they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may know them." Or if you're reading the NIV, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them."
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Why did they, in the interpretations, change it? If the word was yada and means no, why did they?
Because it can mean sex. Like the verb can be used both ways.
Maybe this didn't mean that at all, though. We just assume because it's all the guys came out that it's a sex.
All the guys came out, and to know them, which is a way that would be used that way. But let's not fail to recognize, again, we are looking at something that is very similar to the flood narrative, are we not?
Oh.
Everybody was doing whatever the hell they wanted. And much like before the flood narrative, where there's inappropriate kind of ways of existing and giants are being born, now you have a group of people using sexual violence, perhaps. But again, let's play with the word no. God gets to know. And it gets to make sense to God. And we all want to know, and it doesn't get to make sense to us. And that sucks. And there's some people who want to know. And they think if they can put everything into a way that makes sense to them, they can know it. But to do that, they have to exert dominance and an effort to know. And this is rape. And while everyone who knows anything about rape will tell us it is a crime of power and rage and hate, it has very little to nothing to do. Sex.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So are you saying that this crowd that's trying to get to the two angels were trying to overpower them or whatever, or does it mean that they actually meant to have intercourse or
It means both.
Perversion or okay, both.
Both. It means what happens when this is a lust of knowledge. We want to know everything. And knowledge inevitably is something that we think is like the power over.
Uh-huh.
God is not an object for us to know. God is a subject through which we are known.
Mm-hmm.
And if we begin to try to have knowledge of God, we've boxed up God, and God doesn't get to have God's mystery. But the same is true of every living human being. Everyone is themselves. Not for me to know, but for me to celebrate. This place is a place where people went to experience the robbing of their humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to understand. Because this text is very aware that it's speaking toward Judges 19 as well, which is another story of inhospitality and gang rape, but they go in vastly different directions afterward. One, God is fed up. And the second one, the whole place goes to hell. Actually, they're the same exact ending. Both times they all go to hell. Because they're creating hell. And they don't know these are angels. They think these are just men who showed up. And now, I'm going to keep going. Ask me questions as you'd like. Lot went out of the door, verse 6, to the men, shut the door after him, and said, I beg you, my brothers. All right. Now, I'm happy calling people brothers in this moment, and maybe that's an appeal to their humanity of things, or maybe an acquiescence. I have no idea. Do not act so wickedly. Okay, he's trying. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. That's terrible. This is, in fact, the very similar way that the story in Judges 19 happened. Is this some version of hospitality, or is he just trying to? Do you know the punishment that is for those tested in Leviticus who rape an engaged woman as his daughters are?
No.
Death.
Hmm.
Lot gives them an opportunity for a punishable thing by death in the Levitical laws. What kind of place is this? But they replied, verse 9, stand back. And they said, this fellow here came in as an alien and he would play the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near the door to break it down. See, Lot might have taken some of their ways, but he wasn't one of them. And inevitably, this kind of way of living, dominance over others, you don't ever get to get in unless you've just been dominated and are part of the whole thing. And as he tries to do this, they're now like, you're not even one of us. And who are you to play the judge?
Huh.
Isn't that our favorite thing to say? When we're doing something and we're kind of caught by another, or even they play with our conscience, who are you to judge me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as we ever kind of say those things, notice too the corporate nature of this sin. Those of us who love to talk about the individual sins of others, so we never have to deal with our own, but this has nothing to do with individual sin. This is corporate sin. This is societal wide sin. Do we like to talk about that at all? And those of us who say that there can only be certain ways we go about things and leave something out. No, the Bible talks about it all. Verse 10. But the men inside reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. So the angels start acting like angels. Verse 11, and they struck there with blindness the men who were at the door of the house, both small and great, so they were unable to find the door.
Yay.
And guess what? We are like in some prehistory times again now. People who say this, but this is a story that is similar again to the flood story. You can hear it. People have, it's gone terrible, and God's trying to maybe save a remnant here. We'll see. I don't know. Well, I do know. Well, they certainly saved Lot right there. And then this blindness. Let's who knows? Verse 12. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city, bring them out of this place. Wow, did you just hear what they offered, Lot?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anyone in the city? Sons-in-law. Now, mind you, he just offered his daughters to this crowd, and if it was every man, young and old, who's in the crowd?
Maybe possible sons-in-laws.
His sons-in-laws are in the crowd.
Oh.
There is a moment here where God is still trying to save some by sheer grace, and whatever kind of prayers Abraham had to God, something about his righteousness and his ability to stand before God and have God stand before him is making a difference. Even if it's not the difference we would want. Because this story is sadly realistic. when we live in a society where others would simply ignore the humanity of another to no more stuff, no more knowledge, no more experiences, no more, no more, no more. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. All right. At least we know God's not for this kind of thing, right?
Right.
So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, "Get up and get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting. You remember when God told Abraham in the last chapter, Isaac will be around next year, and Sarah laughed to herself in the tent, and God said, "Really?" She didn't believe what God might do. And these people, when they hear that, hey, God's really pissed off and it's all going to go to HE double hockey sticks. No. It's the same reaction, but it's going to different places. Because those who think they have power and everything they want, they don't think it can come crashing down, or worse yet, they know it can, and that's the exact reason they act the way they do. It comes crashing down nevertheless. Verse 15. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or else you will be consumed in the punishment of the city." By the way, verse 15, that word punishment that I just read in the NIV, it also says you'll be swept away when the city is punished.
Mm-hmm.
The word in Hebrew is the same word as for sin. Or you'll be consumed in the sin of the city. Why do we translate the word sin into a sense of punishment there? And it can't have that connotation. But let's stop blaming God for everything that we do. And it's the consequences of our sin, our collective sin, our individual sin.
Mm-hmm.
Our familial sin, the ways in which we miss the mark. Because others get swept up in it. But he lingered in verse 16. Why did he linger?
It was his chosen place. He thought that was his home.
It's what he chose. Now, when he chose that place, what did he have with him? A whole lot of flock and people working for him, right? What's he have now?
Wife and 2 daughters.
Apparently a wife and 2 daughters. How'd that success go for him when he got to that new place? He chose something and he's now losing everything. And now he's losing the city. And what happens when you sold yourself, your soul, perhaps, to a place, to its ideas, to its comforts, to its strength? And God's had enough because the outcry has been too much. And yet, it's just a consequence of the way they've been acting. Because this is sometimes just how it rolls. Things get destroyed when whole places go badly, and a lot of innocent people can get caught up in it sometimes, because sometimes there's just not enough people who are being righteous for us to save it from the whole thing. Have you seen in human history times when the very sin of the people ended up causing a whole lot of harm.
Mm-hmm.
And he lingered because what happens is he doesn't even know a way out. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him. He couldn't leave, and the angels forced him out. Why? Because Lot's a good guy? I don't think we can ever believe Lot's a good guy after what he just said to all of those guys about his daughters. What does that teach us about the kind of father he is? The kind of relationship he had with his daughters, that he could so easily throw them under the bus in a way that isn't just throwing them under the bus. And they had to bring him out of the city. And when they brought him outside, verse 17, they said, "Flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the hills, or else you will be consumed." And Lot said to them, "Oh, my lords, your servant has found favor with you, and you've shown me great kindness in saving my life, but I can't flee to the hills, for fear of the disaster will overtake me and I'll die." He's so addicted to a way of life, he doesn't even know how to go to freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason he's been freed at all is because his uncle is a righteous man who's prayed for the salvation of a whole place. Notice, church, Abraham has prayed for the whole place's salvation, not its judgment. And his prayers are only being answered by the saving of his nephew. Verse 20, Lot still speaking. "Look, that city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one." There's a city that they're going to destroy, but he finds one that's smaller. It's not Sodom or Gomorrah. It's just a little one. Let me go to the town of Sin. You know, like those places. Maybe this. I haven't been to Las Vegas in so long, but like I was always like when I was especially in college, I knew that going to Vegas was going to Sin City. But there were some places that as you kind of got closer, they were like little kind of places of like, hey, what you might experience. Stop here before you get there. And I remember that on the thing. And I'm like, maybe that was this little city. And I don't mean to undermine those who love places. I just am like, you know, that was my experience when I was a young man. And he's like, "Hey, can I go over there and my life will be saved?" Verse 21, he said to him, "Very well, I grant you this favor too, and will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there." All right, there's a city saved because Lot wants to go to that one instead of the mountains. Where else could Lot go in the situation that he's in, do you think?
To his uncle?
Yeah. And why hasn't he thought about that at all? But he saves a whole city, a little one. So maybe one man righteous prayers was enough to save one little city with his nephew now in it, but his nephew who is nowhere near righteous, even if he showed some hospitality at the beginning. And apparently the angels can't do their thing until he leaves because God is protecting him. Therefore, the
But
city
what does
was
it
called,
mean?
what?
That is why the town was called Zoar?
Zoar means little.
Oh, okay.
I mean, amen, right? Like, that's
Okay.
one of those things that you just put in parentheses next to it.
Right.
Or they should just translate. Like, and that's why the town is called Little Zoar, you know. Anyway.
Okay.
And yeah, and the sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. So God waits to get him there, and then the sun rises. And then verse 24, the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven.
Mm.
And he overthrew those cities. Stopping in the middle of verse 25 there. Okay. These cities are thought to be on the southern end of what we call the Dead Sea. No, Siri, I'm not talking to you. Sorry. I don't even know how it happens. So these cities of Sodom and Gomorrah are on the southern end of the Dead Sea. And if you know how the River Jordan rolls through and it ends in this great salt sea that doesn't go anywhere, but it keeps evaporating, so it keeps getting saltier and saltier and saltier. Anyone ever been there?
No.
Does anything like south of that region, like does it flourish like Eden or Egypt?
No,
No? What's it like, Kathy?
it's salty and it's barren.
It's salty and it's barren.
Hmm.
This is also a story about how something got the way that it is popular among ancient mythology, obviously. But notice that what these people's sin was, the cost of their sin, was not simply the destruction of them, but the destruction of the land they were on. And it's never been the same again. This is a fascinating sense of the concept. Why is this the most talked about story in the rest of the Bible? Because one, every place that is evil is said, well, are you as evil as Sodom and Gomorrah? This is the biblical.
They couldn't find 10 righteous people there, obviously.
The biblical standard for evil cities. And it's used to describe anyone who is going about things where there are those who are suffering who do not have the same kind of power as others. And it's fascinating. And God.
So was this place all desolate before the sulfur?
I mean, the story
We don't know.
says
We don't
that
know,
it was
obviously,
lush and
but
wonderful, and then, but there it is an active area. Anyone a geologist for fun, like want to go do things like if you want to go experience like a cool like, I'm Californian and I know I've not lived in California for only 6 years out of my life, and people are like, how do you live in California with the earthquakes? And I'm like, I've experienced preciously few earthquakes as you have experienced tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, all
Every
sorts of
year.
other things. Like I can remember like maybe 10 earthquakes where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's an earthquake. And someone, oh my God, this is terrible. Like that's it.
yeah, I've lived
They
here all my
are
life, and
crazy.
I only remember 3.
Yeah.
Now imagine one right on a fault where things start coming up, and if it's already full of sulfur areas and things, and poof, it just kind of goes crazy, and you get a little kind of spark, the whole thing goes up. Like done. I mean, some kind of natural disaster, and the place goes crazy. The earth swallows up the injustice being done to it, but the earth is never the same.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you go back to chapter 18, verse 20, where the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sins so grievous. If he destroyed everybody, who was given the outcry? Do you think?
It's it might even be twofold. It's one, everyone who has to come into contact with them. Anyone who's passing through, anyone who's other, anyone they subjugate, anyone they conquer, anyone that they go about. And we've already seen that there's empire building going on in these little things. So whatever they do to the people they conquer is dehumanizing. And anyone who acts like this, I imagine, or lives like this, or becomes like this, doesn't the very image that's within each one of us have to scream out to God for freedom, even in a prayer that we never hear? I don't know. That was crazy, and I shouldn't have said it. But it's a good question. we're not told all the information in the story, Steve, because it's a very ancient story and it's not literal.
Which is why I said you think.
Yeah, there were some bad luck people, but God had had enough. And again, all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground, everything died. It wasn't just the inhabitants. It wasn't if there was a righteous person, if there was those innocent people, they get it. Everyone gets it. This is a sad story, and it speaks about how bad things happen and people, we don't want a part of them, but they're in bad situations, and it's just honest and it hurts.
Sounds like Palestine right now.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, or reminds you of what would happen if there were a nuclear war. Everybody goes.
It gets terrible.
Yeah.
But Lot's wife, behind him, looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. That was verse 26.
Okay, tell us more about that.
Oh, she looked back is the whole idea. Like, you can't even look back. You can't escape it. Remember when Jesus said, anyone who puts their hand to the plow and turns around cannot be my follower? And looks
right.
backward.
What does the pillar of salt mean?
Well, hey, Kathy, when you were down there at the southern part of the Dead Sea, are there pillars of salt that look like human beings?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing any. So
there you go.
I missed that.
We can actually Google them, and there are pillars of salt. And while they don't look like human beings, like with arms and things, they're human size. And so, like, people saw these pillars of salt and that were near there, and were just like, "What on earth is going on here?" And then when you know that it's an active volcanic region that also has is it the saltiest sea on Earth, the Dead Sea?
Nothing.
Yeah, it is. And it's also, you don't want to drink the water. You'll get very, very ill, if not die.
Well, I mean, like, and you can't, like, if you dive into it, like, you just kind of, because, like, it doesn't work.
You can literally lay in the water and do nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
it's very salty.
And so there were just these things, and so the idea becomes a metaphor again of turning around, much like Jesus used it.
Okay.
If you keep looking backward to the thing that you've escaped, if you long for a life that was lived because it gave you certain privileges and comforts, but it was inherently wrong, and you're being saved from it. How often, again, were the Israelites excited to be suddenly free from, or the Hebrews excited to be suddenly free from slavery in Egypt?
Not particularly.
No, they hated it. They blame Moses for uncomfortable conditions. They longed for being slaves again, because at least then we had food in the pots and water in the cups.
Onions.
Meanwhile, they got everything they needed, but they didn't have that sense of the security of an empire keeping control of them. They didn't like freedom. They wanted security, not wanting to trust the security of God. And so it's the same kind of idea.
Okay, so it's more than like when you look at this story and kind of picture it as a child, you picture Lot's wife turning into this statue made of salt, but it's really more than that. It has to do with the fact that she looked back, and perhaps that meant she actually turned into a symbol of the destruction. She was then faced with the consequences of looking back to the lifestyle, and I see it differently now. Instead of just imagining her turning stiff, and there you go.
And it becomes a metaphor then for this wider idea of communal sin that destroys things. And they don't want to leave. They're afraid of leaving it. She turns back, and this idea of being turned basically by a pillar of salt, she gets caught up in this destruction. She stops going to watch what's happening, and so she's sucked into the destruction.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
It's a little bit like when Peter gets out and walks on the storm, but then he notices the storm and he starts to sink.
Okay.
Now, this is one of the saddest verses in the Bible. These next two. Verse 27, Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain and saw the smoke of the land going up like the smoke of a furnace.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say a thing. He goes out there and he goes out to the very place that he was with God, that he prayed that the city and the cities in the region not have to go through this. If they could find just 10 righteous people. And all he sees is destruction. Do you think he's happy?
No. Man.
He sees it going up like a smoke of a furnace. It's just death and destruction, and it's everything. How come when natural disasters happen and we blame God, or some Christian blames God and says it's due to the sin, they're always gleeful?
Mm-mm.
How come they're never brokenhearted because they have been praying for their enemies?
Mm-hmm.
And we have these two verses of him just looking at it. And stunned and silent. It really is a story that can feel pretty real when we stop trying to hear everything that we've been taught to hear in it over and over and over and over again, and have the same silly little arguments about what it might mean, and just decide to be with it and see what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's have a curveball, because we deserve one after that intensity, right? Does anyone just want to read verses 30 through 38? We won't go verse by verse anymore.
Did 30? I will, as long as it doesn't get awful like that again. 30?
I can't promise.
Okay. No dirty parts. Okay, here we go.
Oh, if there's no dirty parts and you don't want to do that, then I have to stop you, Grace, because this one is.
Oh, wait a minute! I see that. No, I'm not going to read that.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad you said that before I let you do that. I have no intentions of embarrassing anybody.
Yeah. Somebody else.
Anybody want
to?
I can read it.
Okay.
Lot and his two daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his two daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine, and then lie with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and lay with him. He was not aware of it, when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I lay with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and lie with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went and lay with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today.
Right.
Wow.
Pretty strong
Isn't that
wine.
like that? Some strong wine indeed. Now, again, doesn't this kind of mirror the flood story a bit? Just a bit. It ends with drunkenness and things that were like, what?
Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
I forgot verse 29. But when God destroyed the cities of the plain, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the city. It basically says Lot was saved and the city was saved because God remembered Abraham.
Right. Right.
So again, when you're thinking about things in the way of the world and you wonder if your prayers will change the whole world, they won't. But guess what? They might do something.
Well, before we get to the wine part, it looks like Lot was getting more and more scared. You know, he thought he'd be safe in this little Zoar, and then he went up into the mountains, and he wound up hiding in a cave. I mean, he was like beside
went
himself.
to people who were going to get destroyed, right? So he ran from people who were going to get destroyed because they were going to get destroyed. And because God remembered Abraham, another group of people don't get destroyed because they're a smaller piece, enough that one righteous man's prayers can save them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're accepting of him or that he's safe there. He's obviously not safe.
Right, yeah.
And so the very thing he didn't want to do, which was go into the mountains to be safe, is now what he has to do. He had flocks and shepherds and stuff, and he was living off the land and living well. And he looked toward the place of Eden and the valley of Egypt, that both times don't work out well for people, and it didn't work out well for him. And the place is now destroyed forever. And now he's in this midst of where he gets to live upon the ruin at a little town where nothing is good anymore anyway. And he gets up out of there with his two daughters. And what do his daughters feel about the world after what's happened?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last thing that they got of their life being normal was like a knock on the door. And then dad's like, hey, guess what? Let's throw you to the wolves. Mm-hmm. And then everything's gone. And now they're in a cave with dad. What future is available to them in a cave with dad?
None. Really none.
Whatever you do, do not judge these two women.
They almost sound practical in a way.
They're taking care of themselves in a world where they have been left behind with a father who treats them so well that he gave them out to be gang raped.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone dare read this story and judge these two young women?
Mm-hmm.
They were practical.
Mm-hmm.
And as any woman knows, it's often being practical in a world that will judge you for your practicality simply to survive. That you've gone through some stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm so tired of how much Lot. It's kind of like getting his just desserts almost. At least his daughters give him the dignity of making sure he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah, he was totally passed out. Huh.
That's more than I could ever say for what he was giving them. Now let's notice one last thing before we go. They each got pregnant.
Mhm.
One named Moab and one Ben-Ami, who both the Moabites and the Ammonites were never friends of the Israelites. In fact, the Moabites so much so, and the Ammonites both, that God said at some point you have to be destroyed. And I love in Deuteronomy 23:3, you can't even get into the assembly if you have any Moabite blood in you. For 10 generations, you got to get that blood out. And you think of these things and you're like, wow, look at all the problems that has caused this weird thing where just the way Lot treated his daughters and what they had to do to survive. But then there's also a book in the Old Testament called Ruth about a Moabite woman. And she becomes the great grandmother of a guy named David. And so she becomes part of the lineage of Jesus, who is the Christ.
Well,
We just looked at one of the worst stories where one man's righteousness was not enough to save a place. And Lot's righteousness wasn't good enough to go into it and absorb it all and make it any better. He lost his. And yet the story ends with the birth of someone through whom the messianic line is given and created, through which one person entered into the fullness of all of it. And the righteousness was enough.
Through that younger daughter, we don't know her name or anything.
The older daughter, Moab.
The older one went to Moab. That's right. Okay, but she's not even named.
Is this the last we see of Lot?
This is the end of Lot.
Okay.
Lot's story, he left on a journey of faith.
Yeah.
And as soon as there starts to be kind of conflict, and Abraham's like, let's not have any of that. And Lot's like, well, then I choose the paradise side to go that way and kind of give up the whole way that has been like this before so I can embrace all of this. And his fear is announced as not being in a cave where he's afraid of living. And he ends up in a cave where his daughter is afraid of living. And they refuse to be with their father, afraid of living, because, well, he'd already sacrificed them once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Genesis 19. I'm done before 7. The verse by verse method might actually make me less obnoxiously verbose.
Nah. But it helps to sink in the messages. Speaking from my perspective, a lot of these lines just have a lot to say.
It's a really intense story.
Mm-hmm.
And if we stop trying to figure out who we get to judge because of it and realize that it's a warning to everybody, and yet we can't fail to notice the gospel in the end. There's a horrible story, and you have this horrible story of incest at the very end of a horrible story. And in the midst of this horrible story, with the very end of incest, actually becomes a seed for salvation. Who can do that? How on earth is that possible? the promise is that even in the very worst of things that appear to be God's judgment, that we would all agree might be worthy, except we know that there's destruction happening, and we don't want that. That at the very end, though, is a glimmer of hope that any one of us who, if we take the chapter and use it in any way and refuse to say that without this story there is not the glimmer of hope that is Christ. Yeah. And so again, we must be very careful about how we go about judging things.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is again about corporate sin that destroys things. And I'm no prophet. I'm just a simple little preacher, and I'm not going to put on any mantle of prophecy because I don't have it. But I have a version of ideas what the prophets might say about some of what's going on in our days, and use this story as well. All right. It's 7 o'clock. God, amazing. Maybe it's for the best. Bless these souls, and I hope that it was good and holy, and that we did justice to your word. If it was, may it take root, and if it was not, may it blow away. We pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thanks, Garrett.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
First time ever done at 7, I think. So I'm going to... Oh, no, I finished. You could go any point in time. It's now up to you. Bless your